guess let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Before we hear any testimony, we do have, two patrons have moved or have asked to have their bills stricken. Let's see. Delegate Ranson's House Bill 2661. She has asked to have that stricken in the docket.
So moved.
2661. Have a motion in a second?
That's got to report that.
Okay.
When was that?
Margaret? All right, and Mr. Chairman, Delegate Rasul has asked to have his bill, House Bill 2761, also stricken with the request that the chairman of AG write a letter. Is Delegate Rasul in here? He was just going to committee, I think, but write a letter to DEQ asking them to look at the cost issue.
You'll remind me.
Do we have a motion to do so? That's the argument.
No, that's a recorded vote, and I've got it up on the screen.
Oh, all right. That would be, through 5 is 6. All right, then I'll still move on 2761.
Chairman Thompson, Department of Conservation and Recreation, we had spoken with Delegate Rasul, and that letter was actually to the Department of Conservation and Recreation.
I said DEQ, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting that. So the letter will be to DEQ. Yeah, we do, I guess it's, well, we're good. Thank you. We'll know where you are if you do. Keep the phone on. Oh, you have a motion to start?
All right,
With the letter. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote on the board, please. Strike is approved 5-0. Okay, we have 18 bills before us left. And some of the bills deal with the cemeteries. And I don't know if the patron, or, let's see, we have Delegate Hayes. Do we have, well, I don't have all the patrons are here yet. I would like for the patrons to just give a little brief explanation. We take these in a block.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Delegate Adams is here.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Hurst is here. Okay, great, thank you. Have you ever the cemetery? No, cemetery. Just let Delegate Adams, if you just briefly state the cemeteries that you'd like to see included.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 4 cemeteries, all located in the city of Martinsville. Some have a few, some have multiple African-American grave sites that have been confirmed, and the requisite evidence has already been submitted to the Department of Legislative Services. The City Council of Martinsville has made this a priority and would very much appreciate these 4 cemeteries being eligible for the match funding that is provided for under this code section.
And for the benefit of the community, $5.
And Mr. Chairman, we do have some line amendments. I've spoken with DHR about the numbers of graves.
Is that just for Delegate Adams?
This, just for this. And, Mr. Chairman, these line amendments will strike the Bannister Cemetery on line 42. And they will change the number 518 on line 43 to the number 8. And then I have two more. On line 44,
I said you, 518 is number 8.
518 is reduced to 8.
Okay.
On line 44, the number 204 is changed to 178. And on line 45, the number 158 is changed to 9.
Patron, whatever.
I don't believe so. Were these
Pretty
things,
significant.
right.
Mr. Chairman, it's certainly possible that I failed to communicate these to the patron. I've been, as you can imagine, working on dozens of.
Yes, sir, I do. Patron, have any thoughts?
Well, I'm looking at the most recent document that I had, and it still included the 4. I just want to know what the explanation is. I thought I had a confirmation from from Legislative Services that these have been verified. Has there been some rethinking?
There has been, Mr. Chairman, these have gone back and forth. It started out, Bannister was excluded, then we had some information that it shouldn't be included, then it was excluded again. A lot of this is a result of surveying work by DHR employees. They have archaeologists, and it takes them a while. Since I'm sending them all kinds of requests every week, they are surveying it across the state, and they were recently able to verify these numbers in Florence.
Is what it is?
It sounds like it is what it is. Do you know anything more than that? Right. I suppose if we come up with
Yes,
different
sir.
information, it can always be submitted. All right, thank you. Copies of the most recent.
Just the line.
Do we have a motion to adopt the amendment?
Second.
Any discussion? I think we amended it to be, just reduce the number basically, so I would pass the bill.
My request would be for it to be reported, and then we'll supplement it with additional information. Now, I suppose I should also mention there's a recent fiscal impact that was just delivered for, I think, $4,000.
It'll be a lot smaller.
And it'll be smaller still.
It's $5 a grant.
I think we've been instructed appropriations does not want to see these,
Okay.
they passed, so we should be good. So the motion to report as amended, moved and seconded. Now, all in favor, please vote on your board, please. Yeah, Delegate Adams, we'll go ahead and, bill reports, I'm sorry, 5-0, as amended.
Thank you, sir.
You'll get, hear your other bills, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
certainly.
And this bill, staff, is this bill, delegate officer bill? Or are they, almost all?
They're close to identical, and we have a line amendment, a very small one, for 2411. Change shall to may on line 71. Line 71 on House Bill 2411, Mr. Chairman. After the phrase subsection A, you would change shall to may. And then it will be identical to Senator Chapin's bill, and it would be identical to Delegate Austin's bill after it has received a substitute in this bill.
Okay. There's a motion to adopt this amendment. Amended bill is properly before us. Delegate Adams, you want to?
Yes,
We
sir.
haven't heard the others.
Okay, yes. Delegate Austin here, they said it would be identical to his bill.
He was, I asked him if he had a bill, if he
Yeah.
presented his bill, but he was.
Well, and I can speak to that. Delegate Austin is a chief co-patron on this bill, as is Delegate Hurst. And I think there was some confusion about which version, but my understanding is Delegate Austin is supporting this version that I'm presenting today. So I don't know that other action will be necessary.
Okay.
I'm
This,
just trying to get them out the way.
Yeah,
yeah, this is, and this bill is brought as a consensus piece of legislation from all the different stakeholders involved in the timber industry in the Commonwealth, including the Virginia Forestry Association, the Loggers Association, Forest Products Association, the Virginia Farm Bureau, and the Agribusiness Council. And it seeks to address the concerns related to the inadequate remedies available in law to property owners, timber owners, and folks who are, folks who are, who have a significant investment and interest in the sale of the timber. Commonwealth attorneys across the Commonwealth have indicated it's very difficult to prosecute larceny in these matters. And so this code section provides, or this bill, by amending 3 different sections of the code, provide a framework for cases that would give a better assurance that property owners are going to be protected when they enter into contracts in these matters. In particular, the criminal section provides for a situation where if payment is not made within 60 days of the contract or the removal of the property, then and a letter is filed 10 days after, no response to that letter provides a prima facie evidence of their intent, which is the key issue in criminal matters. There's also language that you can see in the bill that provide a framework for how accountings ought to be done when the sale is divided up by wage or cord and sort of divided up over time. And so that's sort of an overview of the bill. I don't know of any opposition to it, but I think it's certainly something necessary, and as the chairman knows well, in our neck of the woods, this affects a lot of people. I know one of my siblings was able to go to college based on my father's timber sale, taking care of that. So that so it's something that is very personal to a lot of people.
Certainly is. Any questions for Delegate Allen? Yeah, Delegate?
I'm not an attorney, but I do have a question about so could you explain to me how it is that it seems that we're creating an equivocation between larceny and a breach of contract, and I don't understand, and I'm wondering if you could explain that to me.
Right, well, that's a very good question, and because no, this would not affect either of those. I mean, currently, anyone can be prosecuted for larceny in the case where property is taken with the intent to permanently deprive the owner, and breach of contract is a separate civil matter. So this doesn't affect any remedies that you have under a breach of contract, and it doesn't try to impose any lesser standard for the prosecution. It just allows a framework. It's very similar to a bad check situation where if you write a bad check to someone inadvertently, that's not larceny. And so the code provides a framework by which you can notify the person who wrote the bad check, and if they ignore that within so many days, then that gives you that sort of evidence that speaks to their intent. Now that can always be rebutted in court, and one of the provisions of this bill actually provides that if notice is, or if full payment is made following the notice within the time frame, or even if it's outside, or excuse me, within the time frame, then there's no presumption of a larcenous intent. There would be no prosecution in that case.
And Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up. So, is this though essentially in effect creating a new category of crime or a new?
No, it's not creating a new category of crime. Larceny is still punished under 18.2-95 and 96, and those are the code sections that are referenced here. This is just providing a way to help establish the intent by providing industry standards that would be applicable in all contracts per se.
Mr. Chair, I find the wording super confusing, so I'm still struggling with this. Spent a lot of time trying to understand it, but to me, it just seems like it seems to be that it's up for grabs whether it's breach of contract or larceny, and I just can't seem to understand how it's separated out, but I appreciate it.
If I could mention, there is one additional section of the code that is amended, and that is a very simple line that allows the state forester to assist landowners and law enforcement agencies with these particular cases. There's some question about whether that was under their authority, and so this makes it clear that it is.
I actually had this happen to me as a landowner. Anybody have any questions? Anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of House Bill 2411? Please come forward, take your name.
Mr. Chairman, Katie Holbush, representing the Virginia Forestry Association. We do support this bill and bring it forward. I would associate all the comments that delegate advocates made. We do think that this bill is necessary to protect our landowners and to make sure that those who are taking advantage of are able to find a solution. Thank you very much. And we've got another supporters. The Agribusiness Council is in a different committee, but they also asked me to mention that they're in support of it as well.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Matt Wills with West Rock. We operate 3 fairly large paper mills in Virginia. As such, we buy a fair number of trees. We were part of the stakeholder process that helped put this legislation together. Appreciate the page for bringing it forward, and for all the reasons that he stated, we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Andrew Smith, Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. As you probably know, over 70% of the forest land in Virginia is privately held, and much of that is in conjunction with family farms that raise timber just as another crop. And we hope you'll support this because we have had a lot of members that have suffered timber theft and fraud. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Susan Seward, Virginia Forest Products Association, we also support the bill, and we're involved in the stakeholder group as well. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Ron Jenkins. I'm with the Virginia Loggers Association, so we are directly involved in that. We work with the other stakeholders. We are in agreement with this particular legislation. We understand that our members are professional. They aspire for business ethics. There are folks that are not doing so, and we think that this would help correct that situation, such as and so we support this legislation. We hope it's the will of the subcommittee to vote in favor. Thank you.
Anyone in the audience in opposition? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report.
Motion to report, a second. Further discussion? Well, I guess we're on a separately. Is that proper? Proper.
Although I don't believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe Delegate Alston's bill was, if there was a question about this.
Was chief co-patron of this bill?
Chief co-patron of this bill.
Okay, then we can,
I wonder if maybe it's confusion.
I haven't had that. If you can catch him before we get out of here, that'd be great. All right, so we have a motion before us and properly seconded. All in favor of vote? Bill reports 5-0. Thank you, Delegate Allen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I had made it's been one of those days for me. We've got folks from the Southwest that are going a long ways to get here, and I'd like to, if we could, I had promised Delegate Kilgore would hear his bill first. And then Delegate Morfield's bill will be second. Delegate Kilgore.
Pardon me? I have House Bill 2187.
And House Bill 2187, Mr. Chairman, serves to utilize monies that are currently in two funds being held by DMME. And first, there's a fund that is the achievement fund at DMME, which holds monies for checks that haven't been cashed. After 5 years, they escheat to the literary fund, and we'd like to redirect those funds to stay in the area and fill a void for our elderly citizens. And that would be the $100,000, about $100,000 in that fund, and that would go to the heating assistance and things of that nature. Secondly, the bill would establish a co-bill region tourism fund for monies held by the DMME in the escrow account of unknown, unlocatable gas royalties, and that would be any monies over a minimum of $500,000 that we would leave in there. That would be dispersed equally to the Southwest Regional Recreation Authority, which is Spearhead Trails. I know that the chairman was visited Spearhead Trails this summer for the caucus, Sportsman Caucus, and then the Heart of Appalachia Tourism Authority. And for 25 years, the Heart of Appalachia Tourism Authority has been funded from civil penalties from coal mining. Well, now there's not a lot of coal mining, so there's not a lot of civil penalties, so the money has sort of dried up. And this is a way to provide an alternative funding source. But Spearhead Trails is a huge economic driver in our area. It's about $38 million in economic impact, and the Tourism Authority has really focused on that and helping with making sure that the world knows about the Spearhead Trails and about the Appalachian area. If you look at the aging of this account, some of the age of this account has been in there for 28 years, and no claimants have come forward in the last 10 years to claim any of this property. There's broad support. Every county in Southwest Virginia and the city of Norton have endorsed this piece of legislation. I know that Department of Treasury, I guess there's somebody here from Department of Treasury, but I have not heard from anyone else at DMME or any of the Attorney General's office. I don't know what they would say, but that's the bill, basically. That's what it does.
Thank you, Mr. Kilgore. Anybody have any questions?
I think I have Janet Sell here.
No, we have Doug at Plummet.
Okay, yes. Sorry about that.
Make it simple for me, because when you talk to it, I couldn't keep straight. The sources of the revenue on the one side, right? And
Yes.
then it gets dispersed over here. So
Right, that's
give me
right.
the sources and then.
Okay, the sources of the revenue, you got, one source of revenue is a sheet fund where folks have they've written a check, but it hasn't been cashed. Okay, that's one source of fund, that's about $100,000. The other source of cash is unknown, unlocatable gas royalties, and that's that fund has about $3,449,000 in it. Now, how that comes about is all these properties down in Southwest Virginia. You have different tracts, smaller tracts, and then people die, people move away, you can't be found. The DMME and the gas companies have gone to numerous expense trying to find people, trying to locate heirs, putting ads in the papers, sending out letters, and nobody has come forward. So that's what it is.
That's where the money comes from.
Yes, that's where the
And it
money
goes to,
then it would go to the first, on the escheat property, the first money will go to the older citizens group for heating, cooling, and that thing. The second monies on the unknown, unlocatable gas royalties would go to equally between the Spearhead Trails and the Heart of Appalachia Tourism Authority to replace some of those monies that they had been getting. I do have someone here to speak, Janet.
Doug Kilgore, while she's coming up.
Yes.
You had, there is monies left in the fund to
Yeah.
account for it.
In case somebody come forward, and if somebody came forward, we'd still be liable, I think, under cheat law, they could still be a claim made, and we would still be liable, the Commonwealth would still be liable to come up with that money, I would believe, the way that law works, if I read it correctly. I'm asking, I'm a lawyer. You're a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, you're a lawyer.
Above my pay grade.
Yeah.
I'm Janet Settle, I'm with Spearhead Trails and Heart of Appalachia. Of course, we brought this bill in an effort to replace the funding that Heart of Appalachia has enjoyed for 25 years. We were talking with DMME, we're made aware of these monies that were there, and I'm not aware of any, we've heard a little bit of pushback from the Department of Treasury, but they said they had no opinion on the bill. And I'm talking with BOGA, they have no opinion on the bill.
BOGA is Virginia Oil and Gas Association.
Right. And I think David Clark, you want to speak or not? No opinion? But we highly support the bill. And where the money will go, Spearhead is in dire need of capital for equipment. We have 440 miles of trails throughout the coal fields, and we can get money to build trails, but maintaining them is difficult. So this would allow us the seed capital to buy proper maintenance equipment for our trails. Heart of Appalachia markets all of the outdoor venture entities in Southwest Virginia, mom and pop organizations on it. And in order to replace the money that they, as the delegate said, from the loss of civil penalties from coal mining, that was the genesis of how this project got started. And this is a very unique situation. I can't imagine there being anything else like it to be replicated, so there's no real concern about setting a precedent because there's not anything else out there like this. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience like to speak in favor of House Bill 287? If so, just briefly come forward.
I'm not, since you offered the Oil and Gas Association, not speaking in favor or against, we don't have a position on the bill. We do endorse the idea of keeping these monies in Southwest. The money's all generated from property owners, royalty owners down there. We have no interest in the funds themselves, so we think it's worthy to try to keep the money in Southwest, and we appreciate the fact that the bill does provide some protection to the industry if someone were to come back later and state a claim that the producers wouldn't be left holding the bag, if you will, on those, because they're not our monies, and we've, as the delegate indicated, expended a lot of effort money to try and identify these people, try and get the money into the hands of the people who own the oil.
Anyone in opposition?
Mr. Chair, I'm Manju Ganariwala, I'm the State Treasurer, and the administration has taken no position on the bill. However, we do have some concerns that I'd like to express, and those are primarily twofold. The first, by redirecting monies that come into the state's unclaimed property program, and those monies then are deposited into the literary fund, which the legislature uses to pay for school construction loans to localities and teacher retirement purposes, expenses related to teacher retirement. To the extent that money that comes into unclaimed property that would have gone into the literary fund is redirected elsewhere, the general fund would have to pick up the tab on it. So there is a fiscal impact statement that the Department of Planning and Budget is preparing. The $3.5 million eventually, according to current law, would have come to unclaimed property, and that would then go somewhere else. The second concern we have as administrator of the unclaimed property program, which, as most of you know, is designed to protect, is a consumer protection law and designed to protect the rights of property owners. By redirecting and taking people's property, and the bill provides no recourse for property owner who may 10 years later or 20 years later, when a family member passes away or grandmother passes away and they find some paperwork in the midst of their, say, deposit box or going through their documents and come forward to the state, there is no recourse or mechanism to make payments to the property owners. So it's concerning that we are setting a precedent to extinguish property owner rights and redirecting this money elsewhere. And redirecting money elsewhere, giving one company, one area, chance to redirect money would just open up the doors where the precedent really concerns that other regions of the Commonwealth, other companies, other industry groups may come forward and say, hey, we'd like to not put this money in a property program and use it for some other regional purposes. So that could weaken the whole act and uniform property disposition act.
Anyone else have any comments in opposition? Further questions of the committee? I know if this bill is board favorable, we'll have to go to appropriations, so we got 11.
I figured you did.
All right, love those.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make one point. There is a minimum balance of $500,000 in the tourism fund.
So that money would be available for anyone that found a deed later on. And it will be, the mechanism, the director of DMME would request that any disbursements be made from the tourism fund to the payees. And so any request, if a family member found a document, would go, as it does now, to the director of DMME and then be dispersed if the documentation of the claimant was appropriate.
So there's recourse.
There is recourse for it.
Right.
Yeah, like I was just,
Motion to report and refer to appropriate for a second.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Report 5-1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now I have to go to the 13th floor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I can
Thank you.
Doug, what else you have from Subcommittee?
all right, Mr. Chairman, of the committee, we do have a substitute for House Bill 2687.
Turn your attention to House Bill 2687. But let's go ahead and adopt the substitute.